At the mesa of a mountain, in the land of trickery, we found a forest, withered trees of dull green and brown packed tightly to paint the scene as a thick fog rolls outward and down the cliff sides. A sad state for a forest, an even worse place for a hideout now. Beyond the fog, beyond the trees, beyond the illusions, we see a lush forest teeming with fire and carnage, leading to a village desperately trying to hold on as the organization responsible for monitoring magical anomalies and fighting back against the corruption of magic. The clan of Calderine is under attack. We see teams of agents returning to base via the teleportation circles on the outskirts of the village. The dire responses. Robotic creatures crash to the ground, destroyed, no longer monitoring those permitted. And we find new recruits to the clan of Calderine, hard at work, trying to hold on.
Is that my intro?
Yeah!
Yes.
The music. Hi. Myri Chanel, play Brutus the Human Paladin, sharing my box and my headphones today.
We can't hear.
Hello there, my name is Mustafa, and name's so nice you gotta say it twice, and I play Tara, the Fallen Star ASMR Druid.
Hello. I am Grim Songbird playing Hiccup, the wild magic sorcerer lizard folk lycanthrope.
Hi, I'm Amelia Som, and I play Terex, the Drow Blood Hunter.
Hi, I'm Ivy, and I play Ruby, our Genasi Arcane Trickster Rogue.
Excellent. Well, last time on Calderine Chronicles, a lot happened. But before we can move on from there, we've really got to dive into where we were. So, not last time. Let's talk about first time. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to give everyone here the synopsis on everything that's happened. But as I go, players, we're going to be talking, we're going to be communicating. I've got questions from chat that I'm going to be asking you as we get into this. Yeah, we're just going to have some fun here. Now, I'm not necessarily going to do it, episode by episode. I have the listing of it, but I don't need to be like episode 1, episode. We'll just get into it. So at the top, we got to meet this ragtag team of folks that are brought in for one reason or another to the Clan of Calderine, which is a secret organization that combats the misuse of magic and protects unique and interesting things amongst the world. For the most part, they try to keep those things under wraps so that the world is never any wiser. But that doesn't always happen. And each and every case has its own drawbacks and also usually has a team assigned to it. But before that is even a thing, you have to be recruited to the Clan of Calderine. So first, I want to do a quick check-in so that everyone knows why each of your characters is here. So let's we're going to go in camera order, in our typical camera order. So we're going to start off with Myri. You play Brutus. And I want you to give everyone kind of that, 30-second, 1-minute rundown of why the hell is Brutus in the Clan of Calderine? How did our girl get here?
Okay. Brutus was a soldier in the Land of Order who kind of got recruited into a cult that she didn't know was a cult that was actually doing really awful stuff. When she found that out, she turned against them at the same time that Calderine raided them. And then they found Brutus, and now she's with them. Also, she has a weird fae creature living in her head that was being kept, by that cult for power purposes. She killed it, and it lives in her head now.
Yeah.
And Calderin was like, "Fuck it, we don't know what to do with you. Just come with us."
They were like, "Yo, get in the fucking car. We need to
Get over
talk.
here.
Get in, loser. We're gonna
So we're going adventuring.
Get in, loser. You've got a fae in your head."
Oh God.
Yes,
That's
and that
nice.
fae's name is Oliver Shadow Dancer. Very, very fun member of the group who has definitely made some appearances. Okay, next up in camera order, we've got Moose, who's bringing Tear. How did Tear end up here?
Well, absolutely. Tear started off as a literal star, and a star that yearned to be where the people are, and fell down to the planet, but fell down in the land of nature, and due to some circumstances came alive, and they so happened to be close by to where the awesome Hiccup is, and ended up, after living a little bit throughout their life, they bumped into Hiccup and all that fun jazz, and they had a mentor, Spark, who led them and tried to usher them into their powers and into their life. And once that grew to be too much between the two of us, he sent us over to Calderin, as he was a previous member of the clan. Okay, not saying that again, but the clan of Calderin. There we go.
Ooh, different kind of mentor. But yes,
Yeah.
Spark the Tiefling was in fact an ex-member of the clan of Calderin, and when they encountered you, decided, oh shit, you know what? Not really my problem anymore. Let me take you to some friends of mine. And they're much better suited and more in their prime to handle this. So yeah, absolutely. So our fallen star ended up in the clan of Calderin. Then next up, Hiccup.
Yeah, so Hiccup was born and raised in nature, and he was raised by awakened wolves. And when he started figuring out his powers and stuff, his old pack of wolves were like, yeah, we don't know what the fuck to do with that. You're not normal. You should get that looked into. And then he did meet Tear and has been best friends ever since. And as of now, maybe more. But that's way too far down the line. Then they met Spark, their mentor, who helped him figure his stuff out. But then when he realized he was like a wild magic sorcerer, he's like, yeah, that's not my problem either. But I do know some people who could totally look into that as well. Maybe you should go with them. And then that's when they have gone together to Calderin, and has just been trying to figure out what to do ever since. And he's just been vibing.
Yeah, got handed off after finding out wild magic was the case. But I want to touch on something there. Raised by wolves, something important for the audience to know is in Planet Lark, they exist on the islands, on the continent Celeste, which is 12 lands, each named after a major arcana ruled over by a deity. And so the god of nature, the god of forge, the god of arcana, the god of trickery, all 12 domains have one. And the land of nature is very unique, as it is one of the only that the actual deity itself prefers to walk amongst the material plane rather than up in the celestial plane. So the god of nature roams about on the material plane, often in the land of nature, and the wolves that Hiccup was raised by is a byproduct of having a deity of nature walk by, and the wolves became sentient and became like very, very in tuned and intelligent just by it walking by. And because of that very happenstance, we have Hiccup.
That's also how we have Tear as well, because that is the reason why Tear has a body, because of the god of nature.
Yes.
Yeah.
So crash landed as a star, and the presence of the god of nature turned that into a celestial body, baby.
Yeah.
Should
So-
intertwined since
Yeah.
day
I
one.
wrote a fanfic on how their friendship started. That's how much I
So-
loved it.
Yeah, I love it. So now let's jump over and hear how Terex,
Actually,
why? Why
Not very
did our
good.
drow Tarek's niece join us in Calderine?
So I know a lot of this hasn't been directly addressed in canon, but I mean, you probably inferred a thing or two. She comes from a pretty wealthy family. Basically, she is slated to take over the family business and decided that they wanted to like see the world a little bit beforehand. So they went out adventuring. Maybe fell in a little bit with the wrong crowd. Might have also been a bad cult that she knew was a bad cult and hung out with them. They taught her blood magic. Maybe her cousin was like, hey there, cuz. What you doing over there? And she's like, oh, blood
Cult
magic.
Yeah.
And he's like, wow, it sure would be a shame if you did a lot of bad stuff and I had to like, kill you or imprison you. And she's like, haha, yeah, okay, bye. And then she left. And then some stuff happened and she was like, maybe being in a cult is bad. I'm gonna go hang out with my cousin, I guess. And then she's here.
And so yeah, your cousin Kagor came to retrieve you. Better than hunting down and having to kill you one day.
She may have physically and verbally threatened a member of Calderine because Kagor did not respond to his text fast enough. But like, the interesting thing I think that people probably don't know because it hasn't been super relevant is if you know anything about blood hunters, you can tell she's profaned soul, which means she has a patron, and she never changed patrons when she switched from being good to doing evil to doing good again. So she's just had the same patron the entire time.
Yep. And your patron has not given a shit.
Yeah, that's what I love about him. Although I was thinking about some stuff we were talking about, some stuff that's happening, and I assume it'll come up later, so I won't say it now, but I'm like, huh.
Well, I guess we'll see. And last but certainly not least, our fearless leader of Team 10. How did Ruby end up in the Clan of Calderine?
She has always been a part of the Clan of Calderine in one way or another. Ruby, unlike the rest of her group, is the odd one out where she was born and raised in Calderine. Her mother is a high-level researcher who does all of that good stuff, and her dad is actually a retired member where he would go out and do these missions that Ruby is now doing herself. So she was born and raised of, this is what I want to do with my life. I want to be like my dad. Really wasn't interested in the healing side of things, which has kind of come back to bite her a little bit a couple of times as she realized I should have listened to mom. So she was raised this, decided she wanted to be like her dad, and went and groveled to Anna Faye to take her under her wing and train her herself because she wanted the best of the best if she was going to take on this position. And kind of fell into a group with a bunch of people she wasn't quite expecting. She doesn't quite know what she expected in a team, but this is what she's got. She loves them anyways, as much as they drive her nuts. But she'll never tell them that. But she does love and appreciate them with all of their antics and their bread squishes. But
spoilers, I think we know we annoy you.
She thinks
but
that she's
you
slick.
love us.
But you love us, Ruby. But
We love you too.
but no, so she has always been here. She's hoping to continue on, but with everything going on, she's not quite sure where her and her team are going to end up at the moment.
Dead.
And
I hope not.
this is where I'm going to get into some of the episode recap portion. I'm going to zip through these, but I want to make sure that, because I'm going to give you all the highlights and all the details. Of course, if you want every little bit and every interaction, listen to the episodes and watch those. We're going to make sure they're all up and available to you. We're also going to make sure that this cool compendium that we have is available to you. That way you'll be able to look up how we spell names of characters, how, oh wait, what episode did that guy get introduced? It'll all be there. But yeah, so that is how all 5 of them ended up here for episode 1. They all ended up in the Clan of Calderine. And that's where our teams were gathered, as 5 solo members had been gathered together to create a new team, as Calderine often works with all new recruits in steadfast teams built ideally to handle each other's weaknesses. And that way, they have a much better chance of survival. And these were the 5 members brought together to be named Team 10. And at some point, they would be able to pick a new name one day. But for now, they're Team 10. And they had a grueling intro. As first, Anna Faye ran them through the ringer, checking out what their abilities were. And after seeing them attack a dummy and utilize some of their abilities deemed not bad, then immediately advanced into combat with them herself. And after heftily giving them some work, I believe Terex was knocked out, held up by the dummy, and one of the other members was completely just kicked. You both took some wall of fire damage as she just rained that on you. Kagor had to call that off and say, whoa, hold on. Are you trying to kill him? That's where we got to introduce the leader of Calderine, Kagor. And Kagor introduced himself, and that's where we met some of the other members that had come out with him, as he was about to put you through your actual tests. Now that you've been put together in a team, and Anna Faye got to judge your abilities, it's time they judged your teamwork and a couple of secret tests. The team was gathered where we met Mel and Odie, the Satyr twin brothers, who are bards to the core, who would be conducting your test. And after getting a little winded, you were juiced up by the help of Genji Wave, the illusion wizard, who granted you all that energy back and sent you out into the field to go chase down Mel and Odie. A simple task: chase them down and defeat them. You follow them out with a couple of things noting your attention as you went out, that eventually you realized you were stuck in an illusion as you kept walking the same loop. And then Team 10 broke out of that. Once they recognized it was an illusion, it faded away. Hunting forward, they encountered a boar and had to fight their way through that. Ended up getting through that. Yes.
We did.
And then they got to finally find Mel. Odie nowhere in sight. They told Mel that one of theirs had been killed due to the boar, and Mel apologized, but said it's a tough life that we lead here, and that is nothing. And then Tear was taken over by a charm from our lovely satyrs and attacked Hiccup in a dog form.
Okay, you don't gotta.
We got receipts.
Okay,
After that attack, you all went full tilt and took out Mel, realizing that Odie was up in a tree casting at you from afar. The rules were simple. They were wearing a necklace with a small wooden plank that you had to break in order to defeat them. That was it. You made your way, and eventually Brutus coming up and shattering, and Terex with a toss. Ruby was able to follow through and help get Odie out of the tree, and y'all caught them as they fell to the ground. Brutus with a compelled duel, setting them up for disadvantage for the rest of what would happen next. But too quick, Terex had already slashed through, and those tags were broke, as no duel was required, and you had passed your test. They congratulated you all and released the charm on Tear. And they led you out. And by the time you got to the downed boar you had fought before, things took a dangerous turn. As suddenly appearing out of nowhere came the alarm. Calderine was under attack. And in the middle of all of this, storm giants began appearing and hurling bolts of lightning. And this is where things got rough. As first, Ruby called out to her team and died as she was crushed by a boulder. Terex ran to pick up the teammate and was taken out. Hiccup turned and ran to try and get away from an overpowering situation and was struck down by a lightning bolt. Tear, rushing in lizard form, advanced and attacked outright, with the abilities coming to their aid of Mel and Odie as well. Mel was hacked in half, and then so too destroyed Tear. Brutus, deciding this was no fight they could handle, ran, and getting to the edge, trying to be the sole survivor, got to the edge and looked over the mountain as many giants climbed up. And as a boulder came sailing with their final moments, they cast Hellish Rebuke.
You said many?
And that
Mm.
is where our team woke back up. As they were still holding on to Genji's staff, the illusion weaver,
Motherfucker.
as Genji was the true test from start to finish.
Damn.
As you had been fed into this idea that you would be going on this, you were put to the ultimate test to test your ability to see the truth, your ability to handle situations that were tough, and to test what you would do when it was an unwinnable situation. That put Team 10 quite on edge and had them in a rough spot, but that took us on to them being able to recover. And that's where they had a little bit more of a chill episode. Because do you all remember what happened next?
Is that when we got our rooms?
Where we played
Yeah.
Sims?
Yeah.
Yes! Wait, do we get points?
Wait.
Is this a competition? I can give someone a postcard?
Should be.
Because
Uh,
didn't Hiccup turn into a potted plant in the first episode?
yes, in the first episode.
Just the
Hiccup
one time and
wild
it
surge.
stuck.
Just that one time.
Or one beach episode, which was decorating episode.
Oh, so
It was
much
cute
fun.
though.
It was very
Yo.
cute. It allowed us to see more of like the characters from what their living space would be like, what makes them feel at home, and I fucking loved that.
If my room gets destroyed, I am going to burn the rest of Calderine down.
Arson!
That's it.
Arson!
Arson.
So, yes, the next episode was the episode that they got their apartment. And that's where there was a gnome who guards the front lobby, who mentally reads the mind of everyone who enters, verifying that you're actually who you're supposed to be.
Don't trust that guy.
And
Mm-mm.
they read and scanned each and every one of your minds as you entered. You
Mine was
got
elevator music when it happened to me.
Yep. Speaking of elevator music, you got your own mechanical elevator that takes you on up to your floor. And then you all got to create your own very well crafted rooms to your own tastes. We got to hear a little bit about what makes it home. Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the end of that episode, that was the first half was you deciding all the rooms. The second half of the episode was in fact getting your first mission.
Yeah.
I also totally forgot. Terex has a pet bird.
Yes.
What the
I
fuck the
forgot
bird been
about that.
doing?
Terex has a raven that exists only within their room.
Yeah.
And so you were given your first mission that strange disappearances were happening around the city of Nox. And that Jarvis, who you didn't know who this would be, is your contact. And that's where we got to give you your first teleportation signet ring. And Ruby was deemed leader by the team. So she was given the summoning tattoo that goes under the skin and will allow you to use any tree to teleport back to the base tree. And you all took your way out, you teleported, and were greeted by a Warforged who jumped down from the tree above and introduced themselves as Jarvis. And Jarvis was your scout and would be your handler for the missions. As they recruited the information, they gathered it, and they would allow you, Team 10, to handle whatever the actual mission was. Jarvis,
that sketchy motherfucker.
Great.
I don't trust him.
At this point, we were all very much in love with Jarvis, though. I would-
yeah. At this point, you loved him.
100%. Still do.
Yeah, we still
We
do.
still- we
but-
still
Why the
do.
betrayal stings even worse.
I know.
Yes.
Jarvis took y'all into the Silver Spoon Saloon, where they debriefed you on everything that they knew. And things were strange, that disappearances, murders were happening, but they were fairly certain that it was originating somehow from the city of Nox. And you began to do your reconnaissance. And in doing so, at the end of that episode, y'all split the party. Because you heard that another murder had just happened and you needed to act quickly to start gathering information. I have definitely named them Team Arson and Team Cast Party because
Yeah,
Arson.
Team Arson. I was literally thinking, I was like, this was the start of Team Arson.
Team Arson.
Because yes, Team Arson branched off to go investigate some of the fun things, and then they found a ledger that seemed to have the list of everyone who came into town, and Team Cast Party went off to get some information about a group they were a little suspicious of called the Bandettes, and they wanted to get more information about this traveling group of performers who would have the perfect reason to be in and out of the city. Now,
Shady shit.
that's where we met a halfling named Altair and a half-orc named Bennett, who were very forthcoming with the information about the Bandettes, as Altair was a big fan of their music, and it was sad that their fourth and fifth members were no longer with them. Now, before we get into more, any comments from the players at this point? Any, like, where were y'all at in this moment?
I
We
thought the
were-
guard was gonna be the BBEG. I didn't think any of
We
them
were
were gonna
so
be a bad
mean,
one.
those poor guards. We were
Yeah.
so ready.
Okay, it's called ACAB for a reason.
No,
Okay.
I mean,
You're right.
You're right. I
Right.
just was
Yeah.
very ready for the guards to be a little more involved than they ended up being.
Yeah.
Will say, I am still disappointed that I never got to put my multi-days sobriety wild magic
I
surge
know.
any
Ah.
because I wanted to drink someone under the table. That just never happened.
Which kind of
Yeah.
sucks.
Oh, I have written in my notes that Jarvis, I said, chooses to identify their gender as a flirt.
Yes.
Ah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah, baby.
Hey,
Oh my
My-
gosh.
Jarvis's identity is indeed flirt.
You know what? That tracks
Perfect.
actually.
That seems pretty good.
that tracks.
Now,
What else is in here?
to get y'all through some of what happened next, the team found out that the Blade Songs used to have the Bandettes used to have two other members, but one of them died and one of them started their own group called the Blade Songs. Then they got a little suspicious as they found out that the targets all seemed to be royalty of some form of nobility, but were not necessarily widely known that they were in town. It was just folks passing through. No one was necessarily here to do a bunch of business. Some were here for a little bit, but somehow people were figuring it out. And they pieced together that that means someone on the check-in list of guards is helping. Well, the next night they kept doing some more research, encountered one of the Bandettes sneaking off to a house and facing off against someone in an alleyway who shifted forms, looking from one half elf to another, and they walked away. There was a little bit of a threatening moment between Hiccup and Mana from the Bandettes. The next
Yeah.
morning, they found out that the Blade Songs were leaving town, and they saw them give a large sum of money to the shop owner, so they worried that they would be a target. So they decided to follow them out of town and see how things went.
Little did we know.
Yeah, how did
Yeah.
that go for y'all?
Okay, so we
Poorly.
got to the right spot. We got to where we needed to be. We just used the very worst equation to get there.
It went so poorly.
As it turned out, the Blade Songs were indeed the bad guys, and they were targeting nobility. Later to find out, the reasoning being that that member who was killed in the Bandettes was because of a noble losing it and being too high and mighty and attacking them. And while they did kill that person on the spot, a hatred for nobility burned inside of Senek. And Senek created a group who also hated nobility. And under the guise of performing, they would hunt down and kill nobles and give their money, Robin Hood style, back to the city, back to people who needed it. But there
I feel
was
like that's
no
not
real,
enough to excuse murder.
yeah, there was no real rhyme or
Full
reason.
motive,
They
still
found some-
murder.
Yes. And that is very much what they did. And they were attempting to do it again against what you would later find out was a young prince traveling through, should have been in disguise, but a young prince Sapir. And as they were on a world travel to learn more about the other lands, they were targeted and you guys intervened, ultimately handling the Blade Songs. But some strange tattoos on them.
By the way, does that prince like owe us money? Like, how does Cauldron feel about?
I
us
assume
taking
we'll be
money from him?
titled once we get to the
Is
castle.
that how that works? Are we lords and ladies now?
That
Absolutely.
prince that
Okay.
we kind of almost low-key got killed
Almost.
Yeah. Well,
Keyword.
and got his bodyguard killed.
Yeah, but he alive though.
But
Yeah.
did he die?
but
But
you
did he die?
But did you die?
I also just want to point out, I've been looking through my notes as Corso's been reading along, seeing what things I have up here in this episode. Still thinking about the vampire dude. Senek has more tattoos, so many for show as fuck related to the vampires. I am just saying.
And
Saying.
At that episode, that was when you were just like, vampires, vampires,
It's
vampires.
vampire.
That is actually the
Wait, what?
episode where after defeating them, they tried to heal Senek, but they wouldn't use any spells to heal him. Terex said, fine, I'll do a medicine check on him. And they nat one. And in doing so, they hastened his death. And that triggered his
I feel so bad about that. Terex doesn't like killing people.
Ruby
that
said,
triggered
"Good riddance."
his tattoos to go haywire, as the tattoos they have seem to not be functioning the way they believed them to. And down came a meteor swarm that would wipe out all but Ruby. And in time, you would come to realize it had killed Terex. And as Brutus was brought back, Oliver gave an olive branch that they could help as they reached out, and Oliver, the Synchron, a homebrewed creature who takes souls and puts them places to hide them from demons, reached out and plucked the soul of Terex before it was pulled to the astral plane and shoved it back into her body.
And there were absolutely no
Zero.
negative consequences.
Zero
Repercussions.
consequences. None at all.
Yeah.
And
This
that's
is
where
D&D.
Terex
We don't
woke
have
up.
consequences.
Terex woke up back a week later, had gone by. It took him a week to wake up. Terex woke up having been healed and restored. And the rest of the party greeted them and were ecstatic they were awake. Their cousin, Kagor, was there personally, where we first meet Sarah, his dog, and we meet Luna Featherbox, the gunslinger, and the one-woman kill show. And Luna came as a personal bodyguard since the leader of Calderine was out and about. And you got to debrief them. They caught you up on everything they knew, congratulated you on completing your mission, and best case scenario is that meteor swarm went off outside of town, not in a city full of people.
Wow, that would be awful.
That would
Where
be
would that
terrible.
be?
Man, that would really suck for those people that were, in the city. That would be really bad.
Yeah, it's a
Weird.
really
That'd be a real
tricky
shame.
situation there.
That'd
huh?
be a real shame.
So you all got to get back, and that's where you headed back. You got your training exercises in, where you all got to learn a special move. Now, I'm going to check in with all of y'all, camera order again, to see if y'all remember what those special moves are. So starting off with Myri, do you know what Brutus's special move that they learned from? And bonus points if you can tell me who taught it to you.
Yeah. If somebody misses her by 5 or more under her AC, she can sidestep around them and get advantage on her next attack against them. And
Yes.
she's taught that by Hakita.
Yes, Hakita of Krona, the half-orc paladin, the fluid swordswoman.
It's a cool ass ability.
Oh yeah, and we got to see that come up. Now, Tear, do you remember? Tear and Hiccup actually share a special ability. First off, I'm gonna ask Tear. Do you remember what the ability is?
Yes, I do. I get to. We get the chance to be able to concentrate on 2 spells at a time.
Yes.
If we make a check, if we fail the check, we lose concentration on both.
Yes. And if you, go ahead, Hiccup.
there's also like if we roll like average, we can hold one concentration spell, but if we like succeed with a certain number range, we can concentrate on both of them. And I love that I didn't even have any concentration spells selected when I got this ability. I do now.
Yeah, now I do.
What's concentration? Ooh, a squirrel.
So my question then over to Hiccup to follow this up is, do you remember who taught it to you?
Sorry, one more time, please.
Do you remember who taught it to you?
Oh, Dungeous Wave.
Yes.
Our
Dungeous
boy.
That's his
Wave.
name.
Wave.
half
Ding
elf.
dong.
Sorry. Dungeous
Yep.
Wave.
Wave. Yep, like wave. Dungeous Wave, the half-elf wizard who is the adopted brother to Genji Wave, the illusion wizard, who is a light
I didn't know
genasi.
that.
I
Yes.
am telling the story. It's she.
Lovely.
Those
So much
adopted
lore.
brothers. Yeah, so giving y'all a little good bits here. Terex, what was that special ability that Terex got?
My special ability, which I have not once forgotten in this entire course of this game, is that if I hit someone with a natural 20, I can choose to give them 1 point of exhaustion. After doing so, I cannot do it again until I hit a long rest.
Yes. And so as you deliver those nasty
Which I know
hits,
I have now.
as you deliver those nasty hits, you can ruin them for ability checks and speed.
Oh yeah.
So, and as you level up, which we'll get to in a minute, you get to do it more times.
Whoa!
Ooh.
Now all I
And-
have to do is just hit my fucking attacks.
Who taught that to you?
I don't remember his actual name. I'm pretty sure I call him Banzo, and he doesn't like that.
Yes, you call Banzalore, the gnome blood hunter, Banzo.
Yeah.
And yeah, Banzalore is a fantastic little fun fighter.
Yeah, he's very fucking hands-on with his teaching methods, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, that man can cut a rug. With that, finally, Ruby, what was your special ability?
It's funny you ask, because I was looking at Ruby's character sheet earlier today, and I have it in my notes in my other section.
Your special ability, saving the goddamn team every time.
God, I don't know about
Common
that one.
sense.
But Jesus. No, Ruby has calculated shot, which once per day as a bonus action, I can figure out a target's weak point, and I have advantage on the next ranged attack against that target.
Yes. So basically, it's a bonus action true strike, but it's specific to ranged attacks. I will remind you, as a benevolent DM,
I know.
Firebolt is a ranged attack.
That's why I think I was looking at it earlier today. I was like, we're about to go into a very interesting situation. Okay, cool.
So, for those of you who don't know, and we're going to get to it here. Actually, you know what? No, I'll just tell you when we get there, because we're headed that way now. So let's get back into more of the recap so we can zip through that, and then we'll get to some questions. We're going to get to some questions here when we come back after our little break. But first things first. So the team got back, and you got to learn these cool new abilities, and it was super fun. You guys had no difficulty at all, and you got to go home and you got to get some much required rest. Until a
Yes.
strange creature walked by outside and you heard a noise.
We
And
got
then
caught sleeping.
Y'all got caught sleeping. And you poked outside where you were introduced to someone who called themselves the Guardian. And that's where we met Sharwin, the Guardian of Calderine, a vine-like being who you would later learn was created by a Golthius tree, also created by vampires. And having been consumed by a Golthius tree, but being a wild magic sorcerer and surging at the opportune moment, she consumed the tree instead and became the first mobile, living, sentient Golthius tree. And her abilities turned her and kept her alignment good. Therefore, she had all the abilities to create thrall and to create interesting magical fruit and utilize it for good. And she became a member of the clan of Calderine, who they very much work hard to keep her a secret. But she has a thing for Team 10, as she was a former member of Team 10. Alongside the fantastic half-elf Silo and the barbarian woman Oops, Brog the Earth Genasi, and that was an original team, as well as some other fun members that Team 10 eventually devolved into. And their lineage has continually been members of Team 10. Oops, A Daisy, who you met later, was a member of Team 10. And so, back to this. You guys meet Sharwin, but also coming to your rescue, as they were also unaware of who this creature was, Team 7 came out armed to the teeth and ready to rock and roll. But they found themselves in quite a peculiar situation, as clearly no one on either team would be much of a match for who they encountered. Then you met Fenris, the archer, who you technically met him back in episode 2, but Fenris Black, the were-tiger archer, was retrieved by Team 7 and came to greet you and said, Sharwin, out for a bit of a stroll. Calmed the situation and allowed all of you to go back about your day. Team 7 formally introduced themselves and you parted ways. In the morning, Anafe brought you your next mission. As information from Jarvis came in, after dealing with the Blade Songs, they found out that those tattoos they got came from somewhere. A halfling and a half-orc, Altair Bennett, who you had met back at the bar and talked to casually. Turned out they were fences and they handled underground dealings. And you were off to the land of Forge to go.
What kind of luck is this?
To go and try and find them. And so you headed off. And as you headed to the land of Forge, you found yourself arriving to Jarvis being torn apart by some thugs who had attacked him underneath a cavern where he was waiting for your arrival at the tree he had designated. When that happened, y'all lost it and destroyed a whole group of people. Jarvis asked you kindly not to kill anyone and then proceeded to slit a man's throat.
Yeah.
Disrespecting red flag.
Jarvis is hypocritical. We love him. Love
Do we?
him, but
No.
at this point we did. At this point we loved
At that
Jarvis.
point, we did.
Come on, Jarvis
Good.
said it was an accident.
It was not an accident. You don't
That-
accidentally
I'm
say
gonna
that.
accidentally defend myself by
Also-
murdering somebody who was just
Don't
trying to
kill
mug
him,
me.
but also I've just killed him almost.
I feel like
I-
Jarvis just needs a malware thing. It's fine.
I do want to say for all the shit Terex gets, I don't think Terex has ever permanently killed someone who didn't come back to life. I'm just saying. Just saying. Just saying.
Noted. Just gonna note that one.
Oh Jesus!
Except for the people.
I was
you
gonna
know-
say, that's, my first thought was, there's a couple of people that would disagree, but that's fine.
Who?
So
Whom?
yeah, Jarvis
Who's under
with
the
that massive accent, that whoopsie, that 404 error, turned around and led you all out through the wonderful city. And as you were heading through this city, you ended up being led to the Oak and Steel, where you guys would be staying. You guys got to have a little fun out and about. This is where we created the bread squoosh.
Yes, this is it, the best part of this whole freaking campaign.
You guys created basically a meat sandwich with
Yeah.
jellies and jams on it. And we got to see some of Hiccup's abilities come out and about as they used levitate and things to deal all sorts of attack damage. But you guys are in the city of Gimdry, and you were led to your tavern where you would be staying. You were briefed on everything that they knew, and that's where Luna met you and told you all that there was a underground fight club and a black market, one of which is probably where you'll find the people. You guys deemed you wanted to check out the black market and the fight club, and so she said she'd get you on the roster. Said it shouldn't be for a couple of days and headed out. Then you all decided, well, some of us are going to go out and explore. And Ruby said, sure, just don't get into trouble. And about 5 feet out the door, you run into your target, Bennett,
Yeah.
who immediately questions, didn't we see you a few towns over in a different country?
Didn't we see you in a few towns over in a different country?
Different country.
You see you.
And about as awkward as that,
We
about
should
as
have,
awkward
but
as that,
I didn't think of that.
and yeah, about as awkward as that is how that went. And then y'all had to go back in and explain to Ruby what had just fucking happened.
5 minutes. Not even that.
Just a step
Ruby
out
had,
the door.
Ruby had just said that. I was like, cool. Like, they're gonna stay out of trouble. I have my why are they walking back in the door? Oh.
So you condensed that down, decided to sleep in the same room with Jarvis and Luna all having one location because you figured you might be under attack. So you still got to go and inspect the city at night. Brutus got to get their sword sharpened. Hiccup got to ruin somebody's roof as they tried poorly to climb on top. And Terex got to meet someone as they bought a black dagger. And that is where they got to meet Oten Harsnet Uten, as they got to meet them and hear their family was a very rich and well-to-do, and we got to see a little bit of that come out of Terex. You all then got news later that, sorry, things got sped up. That was a lie. They updated the times of the Fight Club. It was happening now. And she gathered you all first thing in the morning when she told you that, Luna, and took you to the Fight Club. You guys found yourselves in the middle of a fight where you ended up in battle.
Yes.
And that put Tear, that put Tear, Hiccup, and Brutus down into the pit as
excuse me, I did not get put in there. I got kicked in there. It's very
Yes,
different things.
as Bennett yet
You were
again
gently
encountered
placed by
you.
getting kicked in the chest.
And Bennett kicked you down into the pit as death dogs and the like began to attack you. And you all fought very well and put them in their place. While Terex found one Harsnet Oten amongst the crowd and decided to go talk and get a little bit of information, as Ruby spotted their target and got within listening range. All getting to show off their abilities, we found that next in the battle on the cue card was Bennett himself. Harsnet didn't know much about the tattoos you were looking for, but knew that they came from Altair. Also, a little bit of flirting with Terex definitely happened there. And Terex never called him, so, you know.
Okay, we got kind of busy.
So she found Moira.
She found Moira, yeah.
Yeah, she found Moira.
Oh, she's adopted Moira.
That's true.
Yeah.
Now, from there, Bennett joined the party and jumped down into the pit after the trio had gotten out and said, not bad. Perhaps we'll have something to talk about after. As Bennett went out to fight, they unleashed a horde of creatures against him. And as he fought his way through, summoning his axe to his hand, slashing through, descending a fireball centered on himself, you watched as his wounds healed from a tattoo curing it. And all of this served as a show to secure buyers for these very tattoos, which you then presented yourselves as potential interested parties.
Yes.
And that's where we got
the
taken.
dealers. Infiltrate the dealers, find the suppliers.
And that was 100% what we went after. As you guys were taken to the factory, and you found being taken through a door that teleported you from the land of Gimdri, wherever you were actually at, teleported you all the way home to the land of Trickery. Several countries away, a teleportation door brought you to Faylock Row. And you were being led along with a woman, a very strange woman with a symbol that two of our party members recognized to be from a very terrible organization called the Order. And maybe a little bit of past came choking back up. But while they were there, our lovely druid pair wanted to do a little shopping, specifically from the homie selling vibes. As a man with nothing on the table sat waiting for people to walk up, and simply said they could give you whatever you needed. You would buy it in one of three ways: with money,
Fuck that.
information,
I don't want to
or a trade.
No money, no thoughts. Let's go.
And in that,
yeah.
Tarek said, Tara said, what kind of information? And they simply said, how about your true name? And that's where we learned that Tara's true name from the stars is Sagittarius. And in exchange, they were given a compass, an item that would help them find whatever they were looking for.
Yes.
And that was
my
the trade
It's
to
gonna
a
be
member
conversation
named
later.
Baron in a wonderful place called Faylock Row.
I now know his name. Ah, ha, ha. Okay, cool. I don't know
And
shit.
you headed your way in. You found the factory because you were led there to be offered ink and told about the process to be a prospective buyer. And in there, you found out that the woman from Order was looking to buy large amounts of it and asked if they could be used on children or placed inside of animals to attack sneakily. And we almost had some fighting there.
I'm not
But
apologizing.
Almost.
But
Gotta be cool.
Brutus tempered it down and played it off that the team was also interested in such things. Ultimately, we ended up giving a tattoo as a sample to Terex, as she was told it would cast the spell Command when she wanted it to. And it is on the back of her neck, taking the image that she thought of. And then you left. As you left, you realized Team 7 was following you, as they had been given word from Luna that you had gone missing. And you gave them the all clear and they backed off. And as you got back, that's when Ruby thought, I should probably let Jarvis know. And on a piece of paper, wrote out, at a casino, found the factory, we have some information. And the paper wrote back, what is your call sign? And Ruby, giving the official call sign, Ruby, leader of Team 10, gave the go-ahead and put the paper away. And then they made their way back. You guys made your way back and found Jarvis at the place waiting on you, as they're supposed to be. And when asked, Jarvis had no idea where you were and had not received that, because Jarvis had given your slip of paper and forgot to mention it to you that they had given it to another scout who was sent to track a mysterious figure they saw earlier with Altair and Bennett. They themselves couldn't see them, but they sensed it, and they sent a scout after. But they had not heard back from that scout. But they assumed the response was just the scout double checking it was really you. They're a bit newer and assumed probably what happened.
I'd like to say
Mm-mm.
everything about that interaction was
I
sus as hell.
trust him.
Everything was
Red
sus.
flag.
Also, I want to know that Ruby made the one good decision that night where she was like, yeah, I'm following protocol, and she messed it up, and she doesn't know that.
What are you talking about? Trying to scale the wall of a blacksmith is also a great idea.
Okay, no, okay. In code with Calderine, you could do whatever, but like the one decision that Ruby made as being like, I've grown up here. This is how the protocol is at Calderine. Give your call sign when they respond with a call sign. She doesn't know that it screwed everything. One normal decision.
It was a wonderful choice. I
Yeah,
do
you
appreciate
were
that.
you were elated, I'm sure.
Now, you all got back, and that's where Ter and Brutus, though, recognized that undead energy seems to have been surrounding this room, as if a creature of some sort had been outside the window observing.
Vampire.
And with that information, everyone put their guard up, and you headed back. With that information, you headed back to the base, and you told them that you saw creatures there inside the factory that were like Sharwin, but black and twisted and decaying. And that was worrisome. So they called Sharwin to ask some questions. And Sharwin deemed it best you meet a character. Oops, a Daisy. And as they took you to meet Oops got to relay some information to you there. A little bit of info about what happened prior. why it is very dangerous for there to be any types of creatures like Sharwin, and what that could mean, as that means there is in fact potentially another Gulthius tree out there. And piecing together all the information you had to give, you realized there might be more than one. As on a map that Brutus saw in the factory that they snuck a peek at before leaving, there were 12 silver needles marking positions on a map, and when recalled, recognized that they were the capital city of every country.
Corso, real quick, what was the name of the capital city of the grave again?
That's
Just wanted to double check.
that's a good one.
Hey, real quick, just because we forgot it in our notes.
Yeah, it's
I'll
it's the
catch you
strangest
slipping
thing.
someday.
I can't remember.
That was a really good try.
I'll catch you slipping.
Really good try.
I also would like to note that at this point, sorry, I was a little behind in keeping up with my notes. As soon as we saw tree people, I said, tree people do vampires stuff. Just saying.
You right.
Just saying. Once we got to Land of Trickery, I said totally vampire. Just saying.
You did.
100% was on that vampire train. I love it. And that's where you got told that vampires who are killed, if they have enough malice, can turn into a Gulthius tree. And a Gulthius tree can use its sentience to summon thralls to keep feeding things to it, because all it wants to do is eat, and it wants to keep being fed living things. And you piece together that there was a member of Calderine who was a former member of Team 10 named Abram, the brother to Anafe and teammate to Anafe, Oops, Brog, and Kagor. And they had lost Abram to a vampire attack, and Abram had been turned. And you piece together the idea that perhaps if a Gulthius tree with plenty of knowledge, or someone who had picked through that knowledge, was able to discern, especially with the recall that a vampire who's turned is under command of the vampire who turned them, piece together that someone with a hatred for Calderine might have been able to get Abram's information and use it to create this issue. Telling Anafe that her brother might have finally been turned into a Gulthius tree, she asks you to find it and kill it. But after piecing together more of the information, realizing there might be more than one tree, as Oops recognized that members of the Royal Knights, a vampire order, have slowly been dwindling or disappearing, and nobody seems to know why. Not that they might, but without an answer, no one's certain who to give credit for these disappearances. And piecing that together, Kagor decides this is a Code Sarah. All available members of Calderine are called to assemble, as they are going to strike every one of these locations simultaneously to eradicate them quickly and in one go. And that's where you go. You guys get brought the option. You have 12 different places you can go. And some of them really struck a chord. For instance, the Land of Nature. They found the base. After a week, you watched as some of the highest members of Calderine started appearing. Members who, one Nebula Gravicon appeared and was present. A member, a young boy who was told they were not needed. You saw a member jump off of an airship and land without anything, not even a scratch, and present themselves to Kagor as Trok Nawe, member of the Cloudfang, captain of the Cloudfang, had arrived. And you got to see Kagor take his true warlock form as a pact of the Cerberus, as Sarah transforms into a full Cerberus, his patron by his side. And while they were preparing for war, you were given the option. You found this mission. You get to decide where you're going to strike. And the Land of Nature, where they found the base, Tara and Hiccup's mentor was missing. They had discovered it and then gone radio silent. They had found out that the Land of Grave, where Sharwin is from, they couldn't remember the name of the god of the grave. The name was just gone. No one can say it or remember it. They remembered that they had the most tactical advantage in trickery, or that the head base, it looked like, was in the land of knowledge. And ultimately, you decided to go after trickery. So you wanted that fight with Bennett, and oh, did we get it? Because as you arrived, there were guards set up. Anna Faye traveled with you and said she would take a look around the perimeter. There was a massive explosion, and Ruby was grabbed and pulled inside, thrown down a hatch, and it was locked as the rest of the team fought their way through. You guys had a little trouble with a lock that ended up getting Ruby a lot closer to a tree than she wanted to be.
That
But
was our greatest nemesis.
but you found it. You found a young Gulthius tree that seemed to be being nurtured in the back of this facility. And you went head to head with Bennett, ultimately killing Bennett and destroying the tree. But quickly out of nowhere, Altair dropped their invisibility, power word kill with a tattoo and the sacrifice of his own arm to destroy Hiccup. And then with a chain lightning tried to eradicate the rest of the crew.
So, have you ever learned about like CRs and like how to like mass encounters?
Just out of curiosity, just
Yeah, I mean,
I would say during this too, Brutus didn't have their sword because Ruby had taken it.
Yes.
So Ruby had to drop that sword behind the locked door that tripped you all up. My entire thing with Bennett when Ruby met him too was I could just flirt with him. Like I could just try to seduce him, but I'm gay. But also he doesn't know that, but I'm gay. That was her whole thought process.
Me trying to get drinks.
Yeah.
To know that, but I'm gay. I could just seduce and flirt with him, but I'm gay.
So with that, you found your way in and he attacked you with chain lightning. But because Moose had summoned a wolf, it hit the wolf instead of Tear, which meant Tear was the last man standing.
No TPK.
And with that, chose to heal Brutus, another healer in the party. That in turn got everyone awake, and they ultimately realized that Hiccup was dead. But some bipedal wolf-like creature began manifesting on the other side of the place, and you guys even attacked it before it was done summoning. And soon come to find out, Hiccup had returned. Having wild surged right before their death, they cast Reincarnate and came back as a werewolf. Half wolf as if they were raised by wolves, and half Hiccup as they remember themselves. Being a combination of the two, your teammate returned from death. A second teammate to return from death on Team 10.
God damn. We going for the whole bingo card? All right, we got 3 more.
You almost lost Ruby once. You gonna do it again?
With that, Tarek snabbed one of the remaining people who was running out, Moira, one of the floor managers for this factory, and questioned her about how everything worked and what was going on, while Ruby and Brutus inspected a office. Finding some interesting pieces and information, they pocketed that as a sudden crash was heard above. And a very familiar sensation happened as the bodies of these tattooed individuals went haywire upon their death, and Meteor Swarm was cast. And above, it sounded like total destruction. All players made their way up to go inspect what had happened, and they checked in to see part of this area destroyed, but not as destroyed as it could have been, as a wizard across the way had cast spells to dampen the ability of that meteor, of the meteors. And they separated some of it as Milla Fairweather helped destroy some of that and reduce the carnage. You all had to bring them downstairs in order to look over things, to decide perhaps they could help you, make sure no more of that was going to happen. And he came to have a look and deemed that everything was stable. At least the cauldrons you had showed him, and the bodies were out of magic, so there was nothing much there. So they came upstairs and helped you seal it shut, the hatch. Anafe arrived and told you it was time to get going. We shouldn't be here. We need to send a cleanup crew, but that's not us. And several other members had already marked in the book that they had completed their mission and headed back. And that's when you all heard a ping. And Ruby recognized the first note of a warning ping from Calderine. It should have been much longer, but it was a single ping. Then another ping as you got to your transport, as you began to summon a tree to take you home. And it was another one. It was a different error message, but again, it got one ping out, not the full message. And taking an abundance of caution, Anafe shifted where you were going to appear to the emergency entrance. And you all stepped through. And immediately were caught in the hands of a troll and some firecaster sending energy your way that looked just like Ruby's mother. But the scar on their face was in the wrong spot. And as they tackled these, you realize Calderine was under attack. And no call for help was getting out. Members were teleporting back right into a trap. And you all were taken in by the archers as you saw a misshapen and deformed giant creature as they brought it to its knees and killed it. But in its grasp was the body of Fenris Black, the Were-Tiger archer captain. And around lay several giant bodies, but one is too much. The archers told you, if you are who you say you are, perform your entrance. And you did on the spot. And they gave you the clear and told you where to find Genji, as Genji would be able to prepare you. And you found your way through as Team 7 came in and began attacking some vampire spawn that were running about. Perhaps other members of Calderine that had been turned, or who knows where these came from. Ultimately, you found Genji. And Genji set you up and said, it's going to be a fight. You have 1 or 2 hours max for my ability before your body crashes. But I will give you a surge of power unlike any other. And that is where all of Team 10 and their guest Moira were healed up and boosted with energy as they were brought from level 5 to level 7. Now it's time to hit up some of those awesome questions from the chat. So I gave you guys the opportunity to send some in our Discord, which if you're not a member of a Discord, type !Discord right now, and you can join our 18 plus Discord, the Lark Network. Go ahead and check that out. Then, I also said y'all could shoot us messages on Twitter. So I'm going to pull some of those up right now. They can be questions for me, questions for the cast, whatever your little hearts desire. But I am going to be reading these now. So we'll go ahead and, you know what? We'll switch to our ambient. There we go. A little better here. Okay. So this is a 2-part question. We'll make this one sort of give me your sort of cliff notes on it, but it is, what is each person's favorite and least favorite scene and why? So we'll first off, let's do that favorite scene, and we'll do our camera order. So Myri, do you have a favorite scene in the first half?
Favorite scene.
Maybe an interaction with you and a character, one that you just liked seeing the other players do, or a moment between, an NPC and somebody, any of that.
Yeah. Geez.
I thought that, Myri.
Yeah, what are some of my favorite ones? I mean, I think like many people deeply loved that like really sweet conversation between Hiccup and Tear. Like,
yeah,
after Hiccup came back, it was got me in the feelings.
Me too.
So loved that. Feel like I also, since I got to go first, just sort of snagged the best one right there.
That's okay though. You get to do that.
Mhm.
Least favorite is hard. I don't know that I have like a least favorite scene.
Yeah, so we can change the wording on that. So instead of least favorite, and I'll let you think about that one.
Yeah.
But what was the most, maybe, like, was there a frustrating moment, like a bad roll that you're like, damn it, I wanted a good one there? Or was there a moment that was like, damn it, oh, why didn't I see that? Or any
Oh
of that?
God, I have so many of those.
So yeah, you know what? Yeah, if that's the case, just give me one of them.
Okay, my main thing that I'm really that I'm frustrated about is that I did actually think about the whole, like, probably when we kill these people, there's going to be more tattoos that go off that could be catastrophic. And I meant to bring it up in character of like, hey, plan for that. And then I got really caught up in the whole siege, and it just like whoop erased from my brain. So that
Hey, this might be a bomb. I forgot.
Yeah, it was really frustrating from just like a frustrated at myself perspective, because I literally like had that thought and it just
You're not
Excellent.
alone.
disappeared.
Okay. All right. Let's check in then with Tara, because I got a couple of questions for everybody, so I want to try and get through these. Tara, what do we got as a favorite scene, and then maybe like a frustration moment?
Mm-hmm. Right. No, absolutely. Favorite would be the tear and hiccup, but I think another one is just the bread squoosh debacles in general. I absolutely love that. I think the idea of like just having slice of life moments, right? Like I've talked about this before, but these are like some of my absolute favorite things, and seeing that happen in game was wonderful.
Yeah.
Frustrations, though, on the other hand, I think for me it was a lot of the times of just trying to balance out my spells, specifically as we start using up more and more of my heals. I think those are like usually my most frustrating. In this last fight especially, we had gotten to the point where I'm pretty sure I had like one spell slot left, and it was a 3rd level, and trying to figure out what it would like who to heal. Those are like some real hard moments, and I think they frustrate, at least for Tear, those are like the most frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's definitely a thing where you've got to choose between, like, is this a level 3 like summon something, or is this a heal somebody really well?
Exactly. Oh my gosh.
So and those are tough. Okay, Hiccup. We've got a favorite scene from Hiccup and a frustrated moment.
Well, I mean, the teacup ship, of course. But but there actually there are some really awesome moments from all of these characters. But one that like has if I cannot do a repeat of our guys having that romantic blossoming happening between the two of them, Brutus, that fucking line, like, oh, I thought you were here for thrills as you took down Bennett.
Oh.
Like the way you
that was a
cut
great
him
one.
down, and you're just like, am I? I thought you were here for thrills. Just end it. There's too many really wonderful moments. That one definitely leapt to my mind if I could give an answer right away. As for the most frustrating thing for me, aside from the fact that I felt so dumb after the padlock bullshit, when we were fighting the Blade Songs, I got charmed the first round and I was basically useless for the rest of the fight. I was so frustrated because I couldn't do anything useful for most of that encounter, because I got charmed and I failed that charisma save. So that for me has been the most frustrating thing, personally.
Yeah, Charm Person is a dangerous one when it comes to battles if used right. And
Cards are brutal.
it got Hiccup and just held on. So okay. Let's get over to Terex. We got that favorite and that frustration.
Yeah, so I think the favorite is anytime I get to flirt or do anything subtly homoerotic, because we've been in a pandemic and I don't got any like digital games, so it's been nice to just kind of exercise that a little bit. But it's fun. I like flirting with my friends. And Bread Squoosh is also up there. Just anytime Terex is yelling at someone, every time I make fun of Sergeant Featherfuck, Love that.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty
Sergeant
sure
Featherflap.
like it started out with everyone being like, oh, we don't really care for this guy, but it's just kind of we're like, oh yeah, fuck that guy. He's the worst. And I love that.
Fuck
for
that
us.
one guy in particular.
Yeah. And then frustrating moments. I think the episode where Terex died, I rolled so many nat 20s except when it counted. And then it was like the nat 1. And then so that was frustrating. Also recently, I've just been rolling like shit. And I would like to stop doing that. So I was really glad. Oh, I guess another good thing. I was glad I got that fairy fire out at the beginning because Terex did not contribute a whole lot strategically to that fight after that. But that came in clutch. So
Yeah, no, that was
Yeah.
super
It
important.
was really good.
You really threw off some of the stuff I had planned by setting that up. I'm glad
Good.
you did it at the top and
Mhm.
not a few turns later, because then y'all would have seen Altair early.
What?
Oh.
It takes invisible creatures out of, like, it highlights
Yeah.
them.
yeah. Still.
So,
Well.
yeah, no, that was a big thing. That was a scary moment.
That was a
Uh,
feel good moment.
Love it. Okay, Ruby, let me ask you same thing. Favorite moment, frustration moment.
I think some of my favorite moments have been the training montages, just because I like hearing the descriptions of everybody else and how they're interacting with the trainers that you've put in place. I very much enjoy the Ruby Anna Faye like friendship, mentorship, where she basically giving groveled for that position anyways. Where you had to see Ruby go and tell her mentor that, hey, it's your brother. Like, we're pretty sure he's the problem or part of the problem. I really like that relationship. It's probably one of my favorite things. But for frustrating moment, it was sitting back and watching everybody fight that damn padlock, knowing I'm the rogue of the party. I, the rogue with proficiency, had to sit back and be like, cool, I'm
When
just
I-
delving further into this.
When I realized who was standing closest to the door and was going to get grabbed for that moment, I was like, whoever's there, the closest one is the one who gets pulled in.
Yeah.
And Brutus shrugged them off, so didn't get pulled with you,
Yeah.
which also meant Brutus wasn't down there to fight with you.
Exactly. I think
Oh,
it
I
was
should have
frustrating.
let myself get nabbed.
It was just because I was like, I'm the rogue of the party. I've got the proficiency and I can't do anything.
Also,
It would have been
sorry,
amazing.
no, you go ahead and finish.
It-
I just want us all to know that we're being streamed on a big screen right now in a movie theater, and just so
Yes!
Oh, okay.
Hey, I want photos. I want photos of that. God,
Okay, I
If
will.
you're- hang
I will
on, hang
ask
on,
for them
sorry.
to be taken.
No, hold on. I'm gonna look at the audience. Hello there, movie theater. This is not sponsored by Coca-Cola, but refreshing. Also, I want a photo of this moment, please. You know where to find me. Hello, Daniel.
I love that you exactly know who to talk to.
That's called augury.
God.
But yes, no, that moment, I will say, on the other end, had Ruby passed and dodged out of the way, but Brutus failed, Brutus would have been drugged down there without a weapon.
Oof.
Which is why I kind of was fine at the
Yeah,
mo-
you
'cause
did
I-
it.
well-
And you're the fire user. You were in good hands.
I was thinking it was more the frustration of watching the struggle with it, because I'm like, damn it, I've got the proficiency, but also Ruby in her mind was like, cool, I heard my party on the other side of the door. I've calculated that they're going to be here momentarily, and it just kept not happening and not happening and not happening. She's like, I have miscalculated slightly as those vines came across her foot. That was my most frustrating, because I was like, Ruby in her mind was like, yeah, my team is right behind. They're not right behind me.
Okay. So let's dive into these next questions then. So the next questions I've got in here are, okay, so there are several that are sort of in the same vein. So what they're really looking at is, how are you feeling about like what you envision for your characters versus what they've become between levels 3 and 7? So again, back at the top of the order, actually, you know what, here, we'll be nice. We'll do it in reverse. So Myri has the time to think this time. So Ruby's going to be up first. So Ivy,
Hi.
with where Ruby started versus where Ruby's at now, how are you feeling? Are there any major changes, or, you know, are there any just things that you're like, that was a moment of change,
Yeah.
that was a growth right there?
Yeah, I think defining one that I can think of that immediately comes to mind when I think of how Ruby's character's changed is everyone died around her. She was the last lone survivor. And she could do nothing about it.
Yeah, I remember when you were messaging me about that. Yeah,
I was like, that was a very character-defining moment of she never expected to be a lone survivor, and now she will eventually have to process the survivor's guilt of she let everyone die on her watch on their first mission.
It's fine.
She's fought so hard to be in the position she's in, and then everyone died on her first mission on her watch, and that went from. It brought a very real feeling for her of, oh, I'm a leader and this is my fault. And having to take on that responsibility instead of just yeah, we're Team 10. It was a more serious of, yes, we're Team 10. I have to make sure everyone gets home safely. So I think that was a very character-defining moment for her. And
yeah, and in return, you picked up a spell to deal with that.
Yeah, and now she's got Druid Initiate because she realized she needed to be able to heal at least a little bit because she could only pull the bodies aside and wait and send out an SOS for somebody else to come help her deal with the problem. So I think that was a really cool character defining moment that I wasn't quite expecting for her, but I really like that dynamic of her now.
Yeah. Okay. So for Amelia, with Terex, what are we looking at here as far as how are you feeling about Terex from where they started to where they are now? Any major changes or moments or anything?
I don't think me/Terex was planning to be as emotionally. I mean, I was kind of planning obviously found families a thing in D&D, but Terex was not really super thrilled to be in Calderine. It was kind of well, I've kind of fucked up everything else, so I'm here now, and it's my cousin's in charge, and he said I could hang out here, and I don't want to go home yet. But they genuinely care for everyone in the party and are a lot more protective of that. And so I think that's definitely something that's different. And also the whole Brutus Terex thing where they're kind of connected, that's just interesting. It's not something I would have expected, but I'm really excited to see where the story goes.
Yeah, I love it. Okay. How about for Hiccup? Lots of changes for Hiccup, but based on what you originally thought of Hiccup versus how Hiccup's now and however Hiccup is in your mind right now, how are you feeling? What do you got?
Well, when I first put Hiccup in there, I thought, it depends on what impacts him along the way. I honestly didn't have any plans for character development, but when we first started, this poor boy is such a fail baby because I've also not been rolling super well from time to time, but he turned into a potted plant in the first episode.
After we said don't do that.
And specifically after I told you not to.
And during the introduction, the joke reference was brought up thinking, oh, we'll see when that's going to happen. Happened in the same fucking episode. But when, ever since he kept screwing up, he has been thinking to himself, I really got to pull my weight. I do need to dig deeper. I have to stop being afraid of my abilities. But he has actually become more confident bit by bit with his abilities and stuff. What he jumped in going toe to toe with Bennett at first before Brutus told him to teleport in there. He had so many things going on. He was a little bit tanky actually for a brief moment there.
Yeah.
And then he died. But he has just been continuously improving and becoming more powerful, but there's a part of me that thinks, when is he going to lose control of all that wild magic and be way more chaotic than he anticipated?
Who knows?
Who knows? There's just all kinds of fun questions of what other changes, because he's been afraid of changing, which is funny because he's from nature, but he's been accepting it more and more. So we'll just see what happens, I guess.
And now he's a werewolf. I mean, that's fine.
Now he's a werewolf.
Nothing wrong with that.
Lizard with lycanthropy.
Okay.
All the change all the time.
Right. What we got on your transformation? What we got on your growth or course.
So Tear's story for me started off as, and in essence, is him coming down to the planet was him trying to find another star that had fallen and see if they had like come to life or what had happened to them, right? And the idea for me in my mind was Tear by the end of this story would be a, hey, I have friends, sure, but I'm still going to be on the lookout for this person. But like even when he gave his name to figure out the compass, right, like to try and figure out how to locate them, that was still his goal. But in recent episodes with the hiccup stuff, right, like the teacup conversations happening, Tear is learning more and more that sure, you can have goals and you can figure out what you're wanting to do, but that doesn't mean you get to stop living your life or I guess being stuck on one thing. So you can life can have more than one thing going on at a time, and that's where he's at. So being a little more malleable in general. So his change was that he's more accepting of change.
Love that. And I'm so glad that you grabbed a compass to help find your way, you know? So, yeah. I hope it leads you to exactly what you want, my friend.
I hate that.
So anyways, Brutus, how about that Brutus growth? What you thought Brutus was going to be coming in versus what they are now?
Yeah. The change that happened instantly was Brutus was supposed to be initially sort of a much like harder edged character, and then that's just not what she became. She's too anxious.
Oh.
So that was like an immediate change that I sort of decided on in the first episode, and I've been not regretting that because it's, I think, much more interesting for her. But as far as like growth for the character goes, Brutus has sort of had two major things.
Oh, thank you for that.
Oh.
Oh my god.
I was like, oh no, what's happening?
Media storm. Everyone roll initiative.
I don't have my dice.
Thank you very much, Cowboy. You woke us up.
Always have destiny. Rule number 1.
But with that, go on.
Oh, yeah. So Brutus has sort of had two kind of paths of growth that she's been going along. One is that she hadn't actually been in any battles or actual fights outside of training for quite some time before the start of Calderine. Her last real fights were quite traumatizing. So her sort of re-entering into this world where she's doing what she's good at, which is violence. Mm-hmm. And trying to be okay with that again. That's one of her major things, is sort of like dealing with that trauma, learning how to be like competent and confident again. And on that confidence note, the big earth-shaking thing for Brutus in her past was that, you know, she thought she was doing good in the past, and it turned out that she was actually doing awful things. And so kind of the razor's edge that she is constantly on is if Calderine is the right place for her to be doing good. And so there's been quite a few moments throughout the campaign where she's still very on the fence about it. She doesn't like learning about secrets that have been held. She's just like, this just is kind of feels like the same thing all over again.
Well, do I have nothing to say to you?
I, as a player, love it. Brutus does not.
Brutus is sus.
So that's and so that's kind of still the path that she's on, is that she is still trying to figure out if Calderine is the right place for her to make the shift from, at this point, she's added more bad to the world than good to the world, and she wants to add more good to the world. She hasn't quite balanced that equation yet, and so she's still figuring out if Calderine is the place where she's going to be able to do that.
As you should.
Okay.
So yeah.
So we're going to do a question here as a speed round. So I want y'all to zip out these answers. I'm going to be starting camera in the middle. So I'm going to start with Hiccup. I know. So the speed round question is Of all the, you know what? We'll make it specifically NPCs here and various miscreants in the Lark universe. Oh, okay. You know what? No, sorry. I get what they're saying. Of all the PCs, NPCs, and various miscreants in the whole Lark universe. So Gravicon Order, Lark Fallen Gods, and Calderine. Which 3 would you most like to play a tabletop game with? So if you could hang out with 3 of the NPCs, PCs, or anybody from the Lark world, who are they? If you've heard any from the other shows or any of that. So we're going to give you have got 30 seconds to give me your answers. And we are going to grab that countdown timer right now. And Hiccup, go.
Oops-a-daisy, Sharwin, Fenris.
Okay.
There you
and
go.
Fenris back. Actually, you did that in 10 seconds. Excellent job. Okay.
I
Then
can't
next
choose. I
up,
like everyone.
Terex, give me 3 NPCs, PCs, anybody, go.
Hiccup, Moira, Taika.
Oh yeah, with a magician, your adopted person, and the lizard folk werewolf. I would love that. Are we talking
Yes.
werewolf Hiccup or like level 3 Hiccup?
I feel like werewolf Hiccup because we just need to continue the chaos.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Then Ruby, you're up next. 3 NPCs, PCs, or anybody from out the Lark universe, and go.
Nebula,
Okay.
Oops-a-daisy,
Yeah.
and Luna.
Oh yeah, Luna Featherbox and Nebula Gravicon. Good old turn there. Okay, on to Brutus. Go.
Yeah, I think Tear, Shenzi, and I'm also gonna put Nebula on that list. Yeah.
All right. Yes, absolutely. Nebula Gravicon, Tear, and Shenzi Raidruth from our Fantastic Fallen Gods. Love a good rogue dragonborn. And finally,
Indiana
Tear.
Jones.
Yeah, Indiana
Whoa.
Jones. What are your
Indiana
3?
Jones.
Nebula's super popular because that's one of mine as well. So Nebula, Hiccup, and Taika as well. Feel like we'll get some good himbo work and Nebula to balance us out.
Oh yeah, I love it. Okay, that was a good speed round there. Now this one's a good quick answer too, because then we've got some ones that'll be like actual discussions. But which was the first meteor swarm or the second one scarier?
Oh my god.
We'll just reverse the order we just did. So Moose.
The first one, because I hadn't had a meteor swarm used against me ever at that point. Like, please, no. I know it's deadly.
Absolutely. Good answer. Okay. Myri?
The second one, because the first one there was no way we could have like known what was happening, no self-blame there. The second one, absolutely, as stated earlier.
You realize,
see
that's our
coming, forgot. So the guilt alone was more frightening.
Okay. Oh yeah, nifty. I will get to that answer then for sure. And how about from Ruby?
The first one, because everyone died around her. That was terrifying. The first one, just because we didn't realize what was happening at the time. The second one, we were a little more prepared for, and everybody else in the city was a little able to handle that as well.
Yeah.
So first.
Okay. And how about Amelia? First or second one?
The second one, because the first one happened, and I was like, okay, Corzo's not just gonna TPK us from something we have absolutely no control or like way to do, because that would be really shitty as like a person.
Yeah.
So the second one was worse, also because the first one happened, like it hit us, but like it was, out in the forest and stuff. So it's like, oh, it was bad, but not awful. The second one happened, and we were in a city. We should have known better, and there was a lot higher chance of civilian casualties. And like Myri said, we should have known. We should have pressed it. So that's why. Also, I died in the first one, so it's kind of over.
Yeah.
I didn't have to deal with any
You're like, what
repercussions?
repercussions? Yeah.
Right?
All repercussions, not my problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fuck
And
the critters in the forest, I guess. Count them as
Last but not
casualties.
least.
Fuck them
Okay.
trees.
That one
Hiccup.
person in particular.
Hiccup first or
The second one, mainly because I was more stressed about the civilian casualties, because in the first one it was just us, and we were just surviving as best as we could. But the second one, I was just like, oh God, how many people died because of us? You know?
And you still don't know the answer to that question. Y'all had to leave.
Nope.
So there are no problems there, I'm sure.
No.
But Nifty did ask that I give my response to their question as well on of all the NPCs, PCs, and whatnot, and the Larkumeters, which 3 would I want to sit down and play, hang out with. I'm going to give myself the same 30 seconds as soon as that timer hits a flat number in 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, out of the PCs to like sit down and play with, there are a ton of you. I think that I actually think that I also, as a magician, love the idea of Taika, because I just want to sit and hang out with a shapeshifter who does magic. And then I also am going to say, as the NPCs, I would love to hang out with Troke, Captain Troke of the Cloudfang, who is just, he's a favorite character of mine. And then of just like the one-off random fucking characters that are just like one-off NPCs, I will pick... You know what, Moira, because Moira was just pulled out of the fucking
baby.
Yes.
I birthed Moira into existence for your needs. I don't know who Moira is, and I want to fucking know.
I'll figure it out.
I'm telling you,
Also-
Moira is secretly the chosen one. That's just how it
She
is.
is.
Also, can we
She's
appreciate how
the
she's just
chosen
down?
one.
She's
I
just down
rolled the
for
die.
whatever. You're
I
like,
rolled
yeah,
the
yeah,
die
we're
and
doing
was
this.
like-
She's like, yeah, let's go with it.
I
Roll some
rolled the
dice.
die to see, and she fucking was like, yeah, I'm going. And I was like, oh shit, all right, yeah, you're going. That's a nat 20, you're going. You know?
Oh.
And then she rolled a 9 for the attack, but I was like, all right, cool. You were very eager to go. Calderine's down for that. They have a spare bedroom for reasons like this. And then it was like, nah, she picks up a bow.
My parents were really into archery. We were like, oh, okay,
Cool.
Yeah, that's all on the spot. Moira
Oh, very
didn't fucking
convenient.
exist until
Prime
Yeah.
DMing, guys. Prime
I didn't
DMing.
like
believe
that
that
we
Moira
had
was
to
a
choose
keeper. I
3
can't wait to see
characters
her
because I wanted to
form.
hang out with so many
I
characters.
know,
But
right?
Okay,
Yeah.
so I don't want to run us too late, but I do have a couple more questions for you.
Mhm,
So this one, I'm going to make it either or. This one comes from Gallus. So this one is, what was the most exciting or traumatic event or moment for you? And so this time we are going to start with, we're going to do reverse order here, starting with Terex though. So Ruby will be last. Terex, what was the most exciting or most traumatic moment? I'll let you pick one.
Okay, I'm gonna say the most traumatic moment for Terex was when I want to say Senec died. He was
Oh,
the guy
yeah.
with the tattoos.
Yeah.
Because at the time she was charmed, and so to her, a very close friend was being killed by her other friends, and everything she was doing to bring them back made it worse.
Yeah,
Which
you
is
single-handedly
important to
ended him.
Yeah, which like for backstory reasons, yikes. So yeah, Terex did not enjoy reliving that. It's very good that they kind of died immediately after that because they haven't had to. That was like the more pressing trauma of the day, so kind of eclipsed it a little bit. So
Yeah.
it just haunts them when they sleep, so it's fine.
Okay. Hiccup. Most exciting or most traumatic?
the most exciting thing was Hiccup becoming a werewolf.
Yes, we got to have a good meeting about that, and I was super stoked when we got
you
to
gave
talk
me an
about
offer I could not refuse, so I took it.
that. You sank your teeth into that one. So I'm super excited to see where that goes.
Me too.
Okay.
I have no idea.
How about Tear? Most exciting or most traumatic moment?
So something that was exciting for me and also was traumatic for Tear, I think, is the arena, being kicked into the arena. That moment of just losing control there and not knowing what the heck is going to happen afterwards. Because going into the arena and being prepped for it was one thing, but being kicked into it like that was a whole nother thing. And especially being like, what was it? Freaking getting mauled by those animals right after as well.
Yeah, the death
No
dogs
moments.
immediately. Yeah,
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, that was the moment for him.
it was a pretty good, pretty fantastic moment.
Mhm.
And
Yes. This is
Okay.
Sparta.
so then that bumps us over
Yes,
to
Gallus.
Brutus. Exciting or traumatic?
There's been so many traumatic moments, but I'm gonna go for exciting. From a player perspective, I was so excited about that Bennett fight.
Yes.
And like it was very tense the whole time. Like that fairy fire saved my ass because like not all of Brutus's attack rolls for that were like great. So the
He had a
advantage-
19 AC.
Yeah, and so the advantage sort of saved
fuck?
me and made it so I was like holding my breath every time I was rolling the dice. And I had a lot of personal investment in it because I actually really liked Bennett just like as a character. I just thought he was super cool and like had been like low-key hoping that like maybe like get him over on our side or something, but then I was like, nope, you threw my friend into a death tree. I gotta kill you.
Gotta put him down.
So, so it was deeply like
Deeply
sad
excited.
but satisfying.
Okay. And how about for Ruby?
So I'm gonna go traumatic for character.
Yeah.
No, being the only party member who had realized that another party member had died, and making the choice as a leader to not tell the rest of the party
Yes,
that
that
moment.
was such a
Oh.
moment.
because
Bruh.
Ruby was the only one who had rolled high enough on the medicine check to realize that Hiccup's body at that time was dead, and made the conscious decision not to tell the rest of the party that they had lost another party member because she was so worried that they were not going to be focused on getting out and instead trying to deal with that. So I think that, as traumatizing as it was, I think it was a big decision for Ruby to just not tell the rest of the party yet. And then the
Yeah.
follow-up of that of having to tell Tear they're dead. You can't heal that.
That was a rough moment. And it was a moment because
Sad.
Terror didn't have that spell ability yet.
No.
So I
no
think that-
revivify.
I think that's
You
my
do
most-
now, maybe, but
I think it's one of my favorites.
you have the power to. But yes,
Mhm.
it was good. Okay, so there is a question tacked in there for me, but I am not going to answer it yet until you answer Ben's question, which is players. Which big reveal blew your minds the most? And so, so we'll just do that. I'm going to do just the reverse order of what we just did. So we're starting with you, Ruby, and we're going to go back and make Terex the last one. So was there a reveal or anything of the sort that was just like a moment of just like, oh, fuck?
Yeah, and I think this will be a lot of the players, but I mean, if we can't do anything about it in game, was Jarvis, and the way that all played out was them appearing to have an Ultron moment that we can't act on. I think that reveal when we realized that, oh, that's Jarvis's body on the floor, but we can't do anything about it at the end of session, was something that went, oh shit. So I think that would be mine.
And one thing I wanna make sure I point there, because they're talking about one of the epilogues that we had, and I need to stress, if you are to watch
Uh-huh.
that episode, you hear it described that there is a body that a half elf with fangs steps over, and then they use a seal that says Jarvis. But those are two separate things.
I think it's important
making
to remember that all of your stuff, because as you mentioned on Gravicon on last Saturday,
Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
everything is in same time. Like there are pieces
You know, that's a-
that don't quite fit.
You know, you do watch my other shows, don't you?
Yeah, I do. There are
Uh,
pieces of a puzzle that don't quite fit. How
Yeah,
bizarre!
it's bizarre.
Bizarre.
Okay, so back on up then for Brutus. What do we got for that? That was there a reveal or a moment of like, oh shit?
Yeah, I actually I will go with Altair and Bennett and finding out that those names got revealed as like the people with the tattoos. And I was like, those NPCs I really liked.
Mother. Okay, good. How about for Tear?
Right. I think for me, it was when we figured out that Sharwin was also a Golpheus tree, essentially. I think that moment that like the bad people were using our friend essentially for their things. That big reveal for me was a thing, especially because like it was also telling me that I should never ever question Amelia's theories. So yes, I think that one.
Okay, I love it.
Appreciate the
And for Hiccup.
For me, it was also Altair and Bennett's reveal that they're BBEGs when we became friends with them at the after we became buddies with them at the Playful Pint and gave us the good insight and stuff. I remember very well when that realization clicked in my head during that stream, I lost my shit.
Good. It was a real fun moment to bring that about. And I'm excited for more. And then Terex.
Okay, well, because Jarvis was already taken, because that was out of left field for me. I think the biggest surprise was realizing that the vampires were connected to the tattoos and everything, because I had no idea that the vampires were central to this plot at all. And so that was super wild when they turned out to be the big bad. No, seriously, I know you already said it, but Jarvis was definitely like the biggest thing that I was like, I was not expecting that. I wanted to trust him.
I'm telling y'all, there's nothing wrong with Jarvis. Y'all have just blown him out of proportion.
I don't believe you.
There was nothing
I
wrong
do not
with
believe
Jarvis.
you one bit.
There was nothing
Honestly,
wrong with Jarvis until Ultron took over.
Even right now, right before you said that, I was like, maybe Jarvis is fine. But you said that, and now I'm back on that train.
Moon, what did we just say? Do not doubt me.
Don't doubt Amelia.
Don't trust Jarvis.
Yeah, and so since you've all answered that, the part that was for me is, what is the plot point I was most excited to get to reveal, or get to? And I have been waiting for you to get home. I have been waiting for that mid-season finale moment, because so much is about to take place. And having you guys go through it, having you guys do things, I've been taking notes of everything, like a good DM should. And there's stuff I can't even tell you about that you have done that I just can't speak on. But it all starts here. And I was so excited. That was my thing.
You're stressing me out.
What are you talking about? All the bad decisions are Gravicon's fault.
Yeah,
Also-
well, that is true. That is
And-
objectively
Blame
true.
bucket.
Blame Bucket.
With
Bucket's
that, I believe I'll give you all one last question, and then we'll do our little sign off here. So this is a question from me. This will be our last little thing. What is something you're looking forward to learning more about? And we'll just go in basic camera order. So with Brutus, is there anything that you want to know more about? I'm not answering anything right now, but is there something that's just caught your attention?
Yes, all of Caldorine's secrets.
Okay. Excellent. And how about for Tear?
I think Tear wants to someday meet the god of nature, to talk a little bit about the god of the grave, but also to just see if him being brought to life was a coincidence or if it was like an on purpose sort of thing.
Okay. And how about Hiccup or Green?
Something similar with Terra, actually, meeting the god of nature. And is he the reason why Hiccup's a wild magic sorcerer? Or did something else happen? Because he didn't know what birthed him. He was adopted. Like,
Yeah.
Going on a
wanna
trip,
know,
I
where
guess.
did all that come from? Or is there something more to it than he doesn't know?
Yeah. Okay. And how about for Amelia?
I'm thinking a lot about conversations during backstory discussions and character creation. I mentioned earlier that Terex worships the god of light, Drinroth, and they're very much about like the balance of light and darkness, and every good there is bad, yin yang, all of that stuff, which is why Terex was worshiping them this whole time, like it's like a family thing, and was able to do that on both sides of regardless of where their allegiances lie. Don't give a shit. The thing is, at one point you mentioned that Terex going to the good side meant that someone may have gone to the bad side. And I've been thinking about that nonstop. and I've been thinking about Calderine nonstop because all I do is think about like the way the balance works, right? And Calderine has got a lot of power. So maybe is this all some weird cosmic rebalancing? Is this like when Anakin killed the younglings because the Jedi had gotten too powerful? They overbalanced the Sith. Think about
Wow,
Think about it.
That is a lot to consider, you know, and I appreciate that you are considering those sort of things.
You were the BBEG all along. God damn.
Ruby, Ivy, what are you wanting to know more about, or what's kind of tickled your imagination?
I think for me personally, it would be the Land of Grave. Nobody seems to remember much about it, which is really weird. Ruby, as a character, is a little interested that she didn't know certain things when she's lived here her whole life. So, like Sharwin being way up in the chain of command and above, the leaders that she thought were the leaders. So I think she's a little curious as to what else is in the shadows that she hasn't seen.
Excellent. Well, I can't really answer much more on my end as to like what I'm excited for, because obviously don't want to give anything away, but I will say, as kind of my final thing here, is I've been loving this campaign from start to finish. I've been having so much fun with Clan of Calderine being this thing that I built years ago as part of a home game, as just something that they got to play in, but they never got to any of the stuff that you're doing. And because that disbanded, you guys get to bring new life to a thing that I've wanted to do for so long. And I'm super stoked that we get to do this. But by also weaving in the stories that you each have brought, Calderine is something completely different. And I'm very excited for that. Yeah. And so, I don't know. Thank you all. It's been an awesome time. And yeah, let's pick up the pace. Let's pick up the beat. It's that classic Calderine energy. We can't sit in the fields for too long, folks. This has been a recap episode of Calderine Chronicles, and it's let us tell you all about this amazing show. And it's let us tell you some really cool stuff. But frankly, we haven't maybe told you enough.
Yup.
But that's okay. Why don't we give it a shot? Why don't we think of something else? Why don't we think of an idea? Why don't we think of a scene? We see someone sitting in front of a chessboard, staring down at the pieces. And they move one piece across the board, 2 spaces forward. And another person paces behind them and says, "Well, you can't rush these things. You can only give them a push in the right direction." And as another piece is grabbed and moved forward, we see a blood hunter realizing these may not be the types of people you want to be around. Then another piece is moved farther on the board, and a creature calls out to a paladin for help. That piece jumps over another piece, consuming a piece on the board, and a star falls from the sky. Another piece is hopped across and sacrificed, and in its place, a leader is born. A piece makes its way to the other end of the board and is traded for another and set down, and a god walks the realms. And we see a lizard folk open their eyes, looking around to nothingness in the land of nature. And in another space, someone is drawing on a board, frantically drawing symbols in languages that can't even be comprehended. And as they finish writing it, the words vanish. And suddenly, a book falls into someone's possession. And we see members of Calderine learning the first ever touches of tattoo magic. We see moments throughout time lining up to bring us to where we are now. We see a half-elf living a life that they expect to be nothing but freedom, as one more piece is moved on that board. And the final member in the room says, now we wait and we hope we've made the right bet. And Rhea Gravicon looks up and nods. And they stand up and they leave. As you see a seat somewhere in the celestial plane for the god of the grave, and it sits empty. And beside it, another seat for the god of light, also empty. Beside it, the god of knowledge, with a spear sitting across it, empty. And as the camera pans back, every seat is empty.